Joining me now, former Afghan interpreter and co-founder of the nonprofit No One Left Behind. He is Janis Shinwari, also former CIA station chief and Fox News contributor. Back with us is Dan Hoffman. First to you, Janis. Your reaction to the condemnation around the world, Tony Blair included, calling Biden his cut-and-run withdrawal, quote, imbecilic. What do you say to that?
All right. I would say, like, what is happening right now in Afghanistan, it's a disaster. I even didn't expect that this thing will happen within a week, even though we trained the Afghan army for 20 years, but we didn't expect this, that everything will collapse within a week. And it's a disaster, I would say. Yeah.
We hear you, Janis. Dan Hoffman, you know, the president is going to meet with the G7. Our allies are really upset that he's basically claiming they're not upset over what happened. They're saying we are upset. Watch former President Trump here. Watch this.
Biden's botched exit in Afghanistan is the most astonishing display of gross incompetence by a nation's leader, perhaps at any time that anybody's ever seen. Name another situation like this. Vietnam looks like a masterclass in strategy compared to Joe Biden's catastrophe. This will go down as one of the great military defeats of all time, and it did not have to happen that way. This is not a withdrawal. This was a total surrender. This surrender for no reason.
Let's show the UN Security Council and NATO signing off on Trump's conditional deal, saying 5,000 Taliban prisoners will be released. That's being now called into question. But 1,000 Afghan soldiers, Dan, were also released. And Trump put conditions on the deal. No power vacuum. We will strike back if you touch a hair on an American's head. What do you say to this?
Well, there were two parts to that Doha deal, which was negotiated in February 2020. The first was that the Taliban would sever their ties with al-Qaeda, which they never did, and that the Taliban would begin intra-Afghan dialogue in earnest, because the idea was that we would have some kind of reconciliation between the Taliban and the central government in Kabul. Neither one of those things happened. So it's certainly, we can ask a lot of hypothetical questions about had President Trump had the opportunity either to rework that deal or decide that he wasn't going to withdraw our troops because the Taliban did not adhere to the key points, the key provisions of that deal. But they didn't. And President Biden scrapped a few other deals that President Trump negotiated. He pursued different policies on JCPOA, on the Paris Climate Accord. He could have nixed this deal and pursued a better one for us.
We hear you, Dan. Janis, so there's criticism of President Biden also downplaying the presence of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Why downplay it when China and the UN Security Council last year said, you know, this is an issue. Do not do a disorderly, chaotic withdrawal. You'll leave a power vacuum where al-Qaeda will step in. China warned about that last year. Your reaction to this, that President Biden was downplaying that with ABC News, the presence of al-Qaeda. What do you say to that?
All right. I say that in my previous interview, if the American withdraw their troops from Afghanistan, the Taliban will come back to the power. They will take over the Afghanistan, and that will be a threat to the whole world. And that happened. And now the Taliban have the control. They control the whole Afghanistan, and that was not the right time for the U.S. to leave Afghanistan. Because the al-Qaeda and the Taliban were more powerful than they were before, and now they have access to everything, to the Air Force, to the advanced weapons. They have all American weapons, and that's a bigger threat to the world, especially to the America, and yeah, you know, and that's not good.
Janis and his nonprofit, Dan, have been rescuing people out of Afghanistan, including Afghanistan interpreters. They're doing heroic work. You know, you square what Janis is doing to what you see in the Biden team, where they're dissembling, they're flip-flopping, they're just obfuscation and lying in real time, as critics say. What does this say to the world when you see this kind of behavior in the administration?
Well, I just think the facts are going to speak a lot louder than the words. And we've got an immediate crisis where we have our own citizens behind enemy lines, as well as Afghans with whom we had the honor of serving, who kept our nation safe, also in harm's way, and we're not getting them out fast enough. That's a crisis. We also have a long-term crisis, which is that now the Taliban controls Afghanistan. It's going to be a terrorist-sponsored state. We face a three-pronged threat from there: Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Taliban itself. They all have us in their crosshairs. The Biden administration might like to think they ended what they like to call an endless war, though I don't agree with them that that's what it was. But no, the war is going to still go on. We're in the crosshairs of our enemies, and they're going to look for us. And we're not going to have an opportunity like we would have if we had an intelligence footprint and military capability to detect those threats way out left of boom. And my concern is that's going to be the legacy of the Biden administration, that we have left Afghanistan, in the irony of ironies, on the eve of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, as a more clear and present danger to our nation than it's ever been before.
Let's watch the Biden team dissemble, prevaricate in real time, and contradict each other, including the president. Watch this.
And it continues to be the case that many Afghans and many American citizens and lawful permanent residents as well have not been able to get through. Are you denying, is the administration denying, as the president did earlier, that is the case?
I don't think anyone is denying the reports that are out there.
It wasn't just Americans that he talked about, have been harassed and in some cases beaten. We don't believe it is a very large number. So by and large, most Americans are having no problems that we're aware of.
It's difficult for us to speak to reports that are anecdotal, that may be on social media.
So, Janis, downplaying, just anecdotal stuff. That's what we're hearing out of the White House. Is this true, what's going on at Kabul airport? There are 20 checkpoints run by terrorists. What do you say?
Yeah, that's true. To be honest with you, I'm receiving a lot of calls from Afghan interpreters who has been trying to get to the airport, but there are more than even 20 checkpoints. It's very hard. 20 checkpoints of Taliban plus hundred thousands of people who heard the American are taking their all allies to United States, and everybody rushed to the airport. They make it harder to all those eligible people to come to the with their for example, the U.S. passport holders, green card holders, visa holders. They made it harder for them to make it to the gate.
We hear you. Janis Shinwari, thanks for your hard work. And Dan Hoffman, thanks for your service to our country. It was great to have you both on. You'll come back soon. It's good to see you both. Thanks again.